Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News morning show. We want to give if you all familiar with the show, you know how we do. First and foremost, give a shout out to my team. Big ups to Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, my producer. Big up to Brandy Raymar, the assistant producer. And big up to the newest member of our team, Grace Oweka, who serves as my personal assistant. They do an amazing job of making sure that we have the resources necessary to give you all the show and entertainment and information that you need and not just need, that you deserve. Cool in the gang. Today we're gonna have some fun. We have a great returning guest to our show, none other than Dr. Michelle Talbert-Horsey, a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine. We go back like babies and pacifiers, you know what I mean? All the way back, you feel me? So I was hanging out with young people recently, and so not that young, because I realized that my actual kids don't talk like that, but like my younger cousin. Never mind. That's a lot of stuff I'm telling you. Again, I'm realizing there's way more information than you need, huh? Way more information. That's crazy. Let's see. Oh, we want to talk about our good friends at Breadcoin. Breadcoin is a organization that takes these coins and turns them into food. It is amazing because the restaurants that participate in Breadcoin, let me show you how big the map is. As you can see, they're heavy in DC, in the DC metro area, and they're also growing in Baltimore. Actually, this map is about a month or so old, and actually I know they have at least 5 or 6 more locations in Baltimore. The way Breadcoin works is that people who are food insecure, who may need some support, things like that, they get Breadcoin. And their Breadcoin is distributed through nonprofit organizations that are already in the community doing work, by organizations that are already on the ground. They know who is food insecure. They know who needs help. And when the clients get the Breadcoin, they're able to go into a restaurant, pay with the Breadcoin, and sit down and have a meal in dignity. They go in just like everybody else. They don't have to deal with the stigma of being food insecure or anything like that. It's just a wonderful organization. Like I told you all before, y'all gonna be hearing a lot more about Breadcoin. We are so excited to partner with them. Also something coming up. You all know I am the treasurer and the chair of the Economic Development Committee at the Baltimore City branch of the NAACP, and we are having a primer on the public banking option. Now, the thing is that a lot of people don't know what the public banking option is. Some people, the people on the right call it socialism and all this other stuff. And that's what we're having this event for. So on May 31st, we're going to have a way that you can view it remotely. We don't have that link yet, but it's going to be at Brick Rose Exchange. And we're going to have Andy Morrison, Walt McKee, Derek Green, and yours truly there to talk about the public banking option and what can it do for Baltimore, and is it even appropriate? Again, we're not taking a position on whether this is something we should move forward with or not, just having this conversation, because what we realize is that while we talk a lot about financial literacy, we need to make sure that our communities have financial access. It's great that you understand what to do with money, but if you don't have any money, that knowledge isn't doing you too much good. And one of the things that the public banking option and again, we're still trying to figure out if it fits, but one of the things that it may do is that it may take the profit motive out of banking. So instead of banks looking at like, hey, what can we do to get the most money? It may shift, if it's held or led by a public organization or government agency, it may at least shift focus and say, well, how can we do the best good, not how do we make the most profit? So I'm really excited about the opportunity to have a conversation. And again, that's May 31st at 2 p.m. And make sure that you stay connected. If you need to email me at info@grindinggang.com. If you email me, I can make sure that you get the press release or the media alert, whatever other type of information we are doing, the bios of the speakers and all of that. Make sure you get it. So hit me up at info@grindinggang.com. All right, one other thing before we get, let's talk about the Grinding Gang. We want to help you take your business to the next level. The membership to the Grinding Gang is free. We have monthly events. We do one-on-one and small group coaching. And a lot of the stuff that we do is free. I strongly encourage you to join because whether you have a full-fledged business up and running for years, or you're thinking about it, a nonprofit or for-profit organization, there's a lot of information out there, and very little of it is designed to help you figure out what you should do. Most of it is designed to sell you what somebody else wants you to do. At the Grinding Gang, we take a different approach. We recognize that it's important for you to be able to understand the wealth of information that may be available to you and what you can do with it. And we just help you make decisions. We help you figure out and anchor down into what your goals are so that everything that you're doing is in your best interest. So again, hit us up, grindinggang.com. Again, y'all know I got my show notes. I'm trying to make sure I don't get in no trouble. I don't want no trouble. Actually, one more thing. This would be not really trouble, but we are hosting a grant writing session. You should probably see the link for it in the description if you are on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, email me. If you're on Twitter, email me at info@grindinggang, because I know we have a contest for free tickets, but I also believe that we have just free tickets we're giving out. I need to check with Donnie or whatever, but hit me up and we'll make sure that you get all that information as well. Again, got my show notes because y'all know I get excited when I talk to my next guest. She hails from Maryland. Maryland. Like I said, she and I have been friends for years, literally for years. Actually, I think we might even be able to measure it in decades. Actually, I'm sure we can, but she probably doesn't want to talk about that part. She is an incredible advocate for students, an incredible educator, and an incredible professional. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michelle Talbert-Horsey. Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm good, William. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So today, we're getting back to talking about employment for students, as particularly those who are in higher ed, community college and higher ed, and how they start to prepare to make that transition out into, and I hate calling it the real world, because school is a real world. Like there's some real things that happen or whatever, but what we call the real world. So for those who may not know you, Doc, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have 23 years of experience in higher education. 17 of those years has been in career services, helping students to figure out their why. That means, why am I even going to school to begin with? And then helping them to connect the dots, helping them to figure out what's next. After I complete my 2 years here in a community college or my 4 years at a four-year institution, what's next for me? Is school continuing with, if you're in a community college, continuing with a 4-year degree, is that going to be my path? If you're at a 4-year school, the question is, do I continue on to graduate or professional school, or do I go into the workforce?
Okay. So I appreciate the conversations that we've had, because you really do focus in on that why. Like you're doing this, you're spending this money, and that's one of the things. And so I do some dissertation coaching, as some of my returning fans know. And one of the things that I work with many of my customers on, or many of my clients, is this idea is that you are spending tens of thousands of dollars to become the expert so you can answer one question. Why do you want to spend that much money to answer the one question? What is the question, and why is that valuable to you? And it sounds like that same kind of thought process on figuring out why you're doing this really will help students as they're thinking through not just their academic choices, but also their professional choices. That's pretty cool, Doc.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to be able to think it through. I mean, lately, the question has been coming up, is higher ed worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth, whether it be a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution, is it worth me putting any money towards this when I can go right into the workforce. And with some companies, they are training on the job.
Yep.
So, and the training is it's free because you're working for the company and they're training you.
Actually, better than free,
So
you're getting paid for it.
you're getting paid for it. So it's like, why should I go to school and come out of pocket, take out lots of student loans for some students, cut back my hours at work if you're going to school and working. So why should I significantly impact my life in this way when I can just go to work?
And actually, what's more about that is the larger question is, why would I do all of that and still, once I get the job, have to do the on-the-job training anyway? It's not like, if I get a degree, I could just start a job and I don't have to go through that 3 to 6 months of active learning, especially if I haven't had an internship or something like that. So, I mean, I know we didn't plan to have the conversation about the efficacy or the value of higher ed, but I think as we are talking to students about how they pass through higher ed to employment, it becomes even more important to figure out your why, because there's so many different paths. Do you take an internship? Do you take a externship? Do you start your own thing? Do you do more volunteering? Do you do civic volunteering? Do you develop personal networks or professional networks? And what do those look like? There's so many different options that, again, I think you're dead on with the whole why. Oh man, I had a piece of napkin stuck to my head. I was like, it's something, because I thought something was crawling on me. And we were going to have a problem. I didn't, that was going to be an issue. I was like, oh, I saw it in the screen. But did you see I didn't panic or nothing? I didn't panic. It was like, there is something on my head. I will be, you know what? I should get a show note. So normally when I do something wrong, they give me a show note like, okay, next time don't do that. I don't know how we do an inverse show note where we say you did a good job and not freaking out when you thought something was crawling on your face during the show. Okay, so like Horse, Brandy, and Grace, y'all need to figure out how I get rewarded for not wilding out. I'm just saying we need to have our next team meeting. We're putting that on an agenda. Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm sorry, Doc.
No, that's okay.
On my face. Thought something was crawling on my face, and I handled it well. So I was just very proud of myself in that moment. Okay, sorry.
I was going to say, when you think about the value of higher education, I think everyone has to find their own purpose in it. I can say that for many jobs, as you move up the food chain in those positions, oftentimes they may want you to have more education than what their training has provided. So you have to think about, what does this look like for me in 5 years? What does this look like for me in 10 years? And also keeping in mind that there are some companies that, yes, they'll give you on-the-job training, but if you decide to go back to school, they may give you some type of tuition remission or tuition reimbursement so that you can go back to school. And that is a very viable option for a lot of people who don't want to take out student loans. They don't want their parents to take out Parent Plus loans.
Yep.
I think that's what they're called.
Yes, the plus loans.
The plus loans. And they don't want to, and they want to work while they're taking classes, and they don't want to build up all that debt. So that could be an option for them, is to work for a company that's going to train, or work for a company that's going to give them some type of tuition reimbursement.
Right. And actually, one of the things that a friend of mine in undergrad, her father, as part of his professional development or his career planning, he got a job working at the school, one of the school. Well, I don't know if he got it because he wanted her to go there, but I know that because he worked there, and I think he worked at the grounds crew. He's like the supervisor of the grounds crew or whatever. She went to top tier 1 university for free, and actually she got a scholarship. So all of her scholarship money she was able to keep, because her father worked there, and because he had worked there for years, she was able to take advantage of that tuition reimbursed. I think it was remission or something like that. I can't remember what they called it.
Yeah, tuition remission. Sometimes they call it tuition reimbursement. They call it's some kind of tuition break at the end of the day.
Right. but that may be something that, as you are thinking about your role and what you want to do, as you develop, as some of the students, or we're talking to our students, or as parents, we're planning and looking at our career moves, trying to find them in ways where those types of benefits make sense as well. Because right now, when people are looking for jobs, like, the money might just be the money across the board. Employers are going to do, but sometimes they may have these additional benefits that you may need to think about, because like the friend I'm talking about, her father, let's say, made like 40,000-50,000 a year, but the tuition at the school was like another 20,000 and blah blah blah. So all of a sudden,
In some schools, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Some schools actually have a situation where if your child if you're working at an institution in higher ed, your child can attend for free for a certain number of semesters. Like, you can't be there for 10 years. I mean, you have to be, you have to finish at some point.
Right.
But some schools have a deal where if your son or daughter decides they don't want to attend the school where you're working, they would like to attend a different school. Sometimes you're able to get a situation where it's money, it's a little bit less tuition that you would have to pay if your child were to go to one of the other schools that's within their network.
And that these benefits, the more I think about it, the more I find them more available or prevalent in public institutions. So, that might be something to think about, again, because they're trying to recruit students that the private institutions are pulling away from them. And so I think that's one of the other pieces. One of the things that you mentioned was about people when they get thinking about the career progression and thinking about the educational needs that will be required as they progress. One of the things that I am challenged with is when I think about the hazing nature. And we've talked about this before, about like the PhD process and everything like that. The kind of hazing nature of some of these academic programs is just designed to show that you can follow arbitrary rules. Like, 1 + 1 = 2, no matter whether you're taking that at a community college or Harvard, Yale, or Stanford. The 1 + 1 will still equal 2. They may have better equipment or things like that, but the general fundamental knowledge is fairly going to be the same. And so the difference becomes is, what are you willing to do to meet the criteria? Because if we look like public schools, like K-12 education, the whole thing is designed just to have you sit down and to train you to be an employee one day, to follow rules, to look at syllabus, read instructions, follow directions. Everything we do, we measure them on the minimum. Do you realize that the minimum metric to be considered college and career ready is, do you have enough do you have the requisite employable skills? Not, are you a good person? Not, can you think well? No. Can you get a job and contribute to our economy? And again, that's part and parcel to what, especially the conservatives have been saying, the weirdos at least, have been saying about, like, let's get back to life. And if you got to die to save the economy, you should be willing to do that. It's like, nah, bro. And like, that was literally a leading GOP governor said that. Like, people, especially old people, they should be willing to die from COVID to make sure that their children can have the economy. I'm like, I want Nana home. I don't want $20 or $200 and then that I can take to her funeral. I'm sorry. That's gonna be a show note. Did I negate the other show positive because I just went on a screed about something that we wasn't really talking about? I think I don't think that shouldn't really count because that's already a show note and I just messed up. So okay, sorry. Doc, if the purpose, I guess that comes back, and you keep hammering it home, it really comes back to your why. Because if the only reason you're going to college is to get a job or to be employable, that's a totally different trajectory than if you're going for personal development or you're going to expand your professional network. So how do you help them figure out their why?
Well, you have to dig into who the person is. You have to dig into their KSAs, their knowledge, skills, and abilities. That's what the federal government lays out when you have to fill in the application for them. They ask you about your KSAs, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to do with people, is you help them figure out where their knowledge is, where their skills are, their abilities, and we also throw in their interests. What are you really interested in? I was either watching something or reading. I was either reading something or listening to something today, and we're talking about the fact that there is still a low percentage of African American students going into IT careers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about this whole idea of pushing students into STEM when
Mm-hmm.
they're not really interested in
Right.
STEM. And you're creating this entire gap uh, of students, an entire thing of students that are going to hate their jobs because they were pushed into doing something that they really don't want to do.
But this goes
So,
to what I was saying, yeah,
so you
about
have, well, you have to ask the question, and this is why this is so hard. You have to ask the question: Who am I?
mm-hmm.
What am I interested in? What's at the end of the day, what kind of skills do I need that's going to give me the career that's going to make me successful? And I don't say happy, I say successful, because for some people success is making a lot of money and that makes them happy. For other people, it's just really being able to get up every day with a smile on their face, knowing that they're going to do something that day that's going to be of service to someone else. That's what makes them happy. That's what serves. That's their why.
One of the things that I really want to make sure that people anchor into is that you probably don't have the answers to these questions yet. Because what I found is that these are questions that people kind of throw around all the time, but nobody really pushes you to an answer or of the recognition that the answer evolves. You know, it's not like how I would answer this question at 18 and how I answer the question at 50 are not even remotely. I'm literally not even the same person. And so making sure that you understand, or the people that are listening understand, that while you may come up with a who am I answer or what interests me, those things will change. And part of understanding not just what your why is, but the process of understanding your why, you'll be better in touch with yourself as you change. You won't have to keep coming back to Doc and saying like, hey Doc, something don't feel right no more. Could you go ahead and do that whole figure me out thing again so you could tell me what my new why is? But one of the things I do really appreciate you about you, Doc, is that you work with people to figure out their why and help them develop the skills. Again, see, I listen to you, KSA skills. You give them the knowledge, and then you help them develop the skills, and they combine those things as an ability. Did I do good? Did I do good?
You did well.
All right. So you work them through so that they are now empowered and independent and have developed a level of agency for themselves. So as they are navigating through these waters of employment, and when the landscape around them changes, they have the skills and the knowledge and the abilities that you've helped them to develop so that they can apply it to new situations and circumstances. That is really cool.
But even more than that, they have the knowledge, skills, abilities, they have the empowerment, they have all of these different pieces that come together. So when something isn't setting right, and
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right, people evolve as you engage in different life experiences,
Mm-hmm.
your values change.
Mm-hmm.
What
And that's
hap-
okay.
and that's perfectly okay. At 21 or 22,
Mm-hmm.
salary may be the first thing on your values list. We also do values exercises as well.
Mm.
That may be the first thing on your list. But when you are 55, looking at a career change, security
Right.
might be the top thing on your list. You want to make sure you're not going to be downsized.
Right. If you're going to
So,
take the risk, yeah.
so all of those things change and they morph and they look differently. The core of who you are, for example, I've always wanted to be of service.
Mm-hmm.
How I've been of service has changed faces over the course of the years.
Mm-hmm.
When I initially started off with my master's program, I wanted to be a mental health counselor in a college
That's
career
right. I
center,
remember.
college mental health counseling center. is what I wanted to do. I pivoted and changed and went into academics. Instead, went into academic advising and did some other things, and worked with academic trio programs. And that's where I found I could be of best service to the population and doing the types of things that I wanted to do at that time in my life. Now I'm no longer 23. I'm a little upwards of that number. And so but my needs have changed. I'm still the same. I still want to service people, but how I'm going to do that is going to change. And that's okay. But people have to be okay with realizing that they're going to change. Change is tough. Change is difficult, but change is a constant. And you have to be okay with recognizing this no longer fits me. It's like having shoes that are too tight. It no longer fits. And you have to get some new shoes, or a wardrobe. When you're no longer a size 2, you're now a size 14. You can't fit the size 2 anymore. You have to get a new wardrobe, and that's fine. You're beautiful at size 2 and you're beautiful at size 14.
But one of the things that happens for a lot of people is that, well, you have the whole professional background. Help me assess this theory that I've been working with, is that people are stuck in the past, or they reflect positively on the past simply because it's familiar. And because it's familiar, they feel this idea of greater control. Because I have people that when they were in certain circumstances, they would complain about them all the time. Like people who, and this whole COVID thing has been a great example, people who used to complain about going to work all the time. Now they cannot wait for things to open up so they can get back to work. And it's not that anything at the job they believe has changed so significantly. It is because their memory is something familiar. They know they don't like this uncertainty about where they have to go tomorrow. They are clinging to certainty. And I think that is one of the reasons that a lot of people gravitate to things like college and don't want to find out their why. Because when you find out that your why, you realize that you can change it whenever you want. The why is not really a discovery, it's a decision. However you come to that. And it's amazing. And it's also intimidating when you realize how powerful you are.
I think people search for security. They search for safety.
Yeah.
They want to be safe, and it's comfortable to look back, when you're looking back on your circumstances. First of all, it's people tend to romanticize their circumstances and not remember them as they truly were, because they're out of that circumstance. But even in difficult circumstances, someone may be looking back on, in my experience, they're looking for something that feels safe, and it's safe because it's familiar.
Yes, I absolutely agree. See, and then the problem that I tend to have is, well, for me, and we've talked about this on the show. I don't know if you were on that show, but this concept of safety is one that I think I know that safety is a training tool used by salespeople. This concept of getting people to feel safe. It is used by abusers and exploiters, as well as, what do they say, as well as good people as well. But I have seen it abused and misused by these types of people. They create these false sense of safety and this false sense of trust, and then they turn on it. And so, again, some of my trauma and some of my experiences, I find it, I don't believe in safety. I just really don't believe in safety, because all of the things, I have never been able to have anybody explain to me or describe something to me that is safe without having to reduce the definition of what safety actually is. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I would throw out there, just to add on to what you've said, in my experience, it's the challenge that makes you grow.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not, but everyone's challenge, and this is really important, everyone's challenge is different.
Wait. You get the big screen for this one. Go ahead. Tell
I get the big screen.
You get the big screen for that.
Everyone's challenge is different. And people have to move away from comparing their challenge with someone else's challenge.
Amen.
Because people get into this situation where they're looking at what they're facing and looking at what someone else may be facing and saying, oh, well, somehow I'm not as good as, because my challenge is this.
Right.
When the reality of it is that a challenge is a challenge. And you have to look at it within the basis of your life.
Yep.
And not someone else's.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that I appreciate you bringing that point home, and you did it in all the professional parlance that it required. It didn't sound like a scallywag or neighborhood tough or something. Sorry, I also been listening to Joe Biden speeches, so I got malarkey in my vocabulary right now. So
as long as you don't add carpetbagger to your vocabulary.
No, that's just, I mean, I was born below the Mason-Dixon line, so there's certain words. Hey there, buddy. Big up to TRIO programs. Whenever we talk about them on the show, for those of you all who don't know, the TRIO programs are a trio of programs that started in legislation that are designed to help increase the representation of people of color, as well as other disinvested communities in higher education and in certain communities and certain industries, particularly graduate school and STEM. I was in the TRIO program. Big up to the Ronald McNair program, straight out of UMBC, and well, it's nationwide, but I was at the UMBC one, and it really did change my life. Actually, it was one of these things that kind of led to me deciding to go to grad school. Because my family was all about going to the college. Once you go to, nobody really talked about more than going to college, except the magical good job you get as a Black man with a degree. Because there was this magical job you were going to get, like, because I'm Black, I'm smart, I'm a man. Because all the rest of the Black dudes were in jail, so everybody's going to want me, except that nobody told the HR departments this. And so this is some of the things that I was fed when I was making my college decision. So that's one of the reasons I am grateful for you bringing it back to parents and to students so that they can have a better understanding. And so I didn't even know about grad school except the professional schools, and I had decided I didn't want to go be a doctor anymore until people started talking to me about it. And the TRIO program was really one of the opportunities for me to really see that I could actually compete at the graduate level. Like, they took me through the process of learning how to write appropriately. How to do research, and what the difference between articles, like general articles for entertainment, and what actual research was. Those are the types of skill sets that, real talk, I don't know if I would have gotten if I had not been in one of those programs. Because as I think about the academic portion of my coursework, the academic portion of my college life, I realized that where I went, it was designed for people who were already prepared. The professors and the rest of the faculty, except in some of these programs, were not really attuned to some of the needs. This was before, the freshman experience programs really started taking off. So a lot of them, we were kind of on the cutting edge of integrating that in. And without this type of conversation, without this type of mentorship, there are a lot of students who are just going to keep believing in the magical job after the degree. And all they'll find is the antithesis of that, the unmagical debt that you got to carry around with you.
I had a student once that studied Russian, and that was his major. He didn't know what his major was going to be, but he did really well in Russian classes. So well, in fact, that his professors who were Russian thought that he had to have had some Russian in his family, because he had never had Russian before.
And he just picked it up.
He just picked it up that well. And he came to see me. I was his academic advisor, and he came to see me when he was close to graduation. And we had a serious conversation. And part of that conversation was, he said, everyone told me that once I got this degree, it was going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. And I said, yeah. And what you found was that those gold coins were made of chocolate. And that.
Wait. Hey, Doc, high five from across 95. You get a high five on that one. You got to give it up. High five on that one. You get a high five on that. I love that one. I'm a footnote you. I am going to use it, but I will footnote you though. I'll cite you.
Well, I mean, if that was the truth, I said, yeah, at the end of the rainbow, you saw gold coins, and the gold coins are made of chocolate. I said, so that's one reality that you have to face. The other reality that you have to face is that you chose a major that's not necessarily giving you the skills that are in demand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the truth. Now, he did end up finding a position working for an import export business in Pittsburgh, and the family that he was working for were Russian.
Ah.
So he was able to find something within 6 months of graduating. He was able to find something because we talked about how to build your professional network, because I told him, I said, the way you're going to find your job using Russian is to build your network, and don't be so. And he was a little bit embarrassed because it was like, I can't find anything, and everyone else around me is finding something, especially my friends who are in business. And I said, okay, here's the deal with business. With our business school at the time, they were encouraging, I think not only encouraging, I think they made their students participate in internships really early on in their academic career. And so many of those students were graduating with a bachelor's degree in business administration, but they already had 3 or 4 internships under their belt. Well, my students who were in liberal arts majors weren't getting that message. They weren't being told that. So they thought all I need to do is just go to class and make good grades, and there's going to be a job for me at the end of this, not realizing that you have to create networks. Like the business students would have Deloitte Consulting on a Sunday playing beach volleyball or something. And that's how they were making their connections. And my poor liberal arts students weren't making those connections. And they were sort of like, well, how come no one told us this is what we needed to do? But we were able to get him right side up and help him build his network out. And this is before, I'm not sure if LinkedIn was even around at that time. If it was in its infancy. So this was old-fashioned networking. And that means telling people that you're graduating and that you're looking for a position and what you're interested in, and letting them know to contact you if they hear of anything of interest, that kind of networking.
Gotcha. And that is incredibly important. And they are very lucky, especially your liberal arts majors, to have someone like you in their corner. Those of you all, and actually this is advice I've given out before, and I want to try to run it by you, because I tell people, if they do have a major that does not necessarily have a commercial viability, like a language, like art, to build in either education with it or to build in business with it. Because on the education side, if you are a great artist and you know how to teach, you can teach someone else to art. On the business side, if you can speak art or if you can speak language and you understand even the basic of business, you become more valuable in commercial transactions. But that was kind of advice that I've given just based on my experience. What would you say to should I call people back and be like, hey, don't do that, okay? Stop it. Well,
no, I think having a minor or having an area of specialization, that's why schools have that. Schools don't have that, so you can just add on additional stuff that you like. I mean, you can like it. I'm not telling you not to like it, but you may want to think about, okay, I'm an art major. What am I going to do with this in 5 to 6 years? Where do I see myself? And then pick your minor based upon that piece of it. I'm sorry. It's really looking at what that next step for you is going to be. And this isn't, and I recognize this, and I want to go on record for saying that I recognize this. This isn't easy stuff. These are hard decisions, but know that any decision that you make, right or wrong, sometimes people make a decision and they go, oh my goodness, I just completely screwed this up. I made the wrong, I chose the wrong major. I chose the wrong, whatever, for whatever reason. Sometimes people pick a major, they go home, talk to their families, and they're so deep in the major at that point that it doesn't make sense to back out of it. You're like a couple classes away from graduating. So it's sort of like, what do you do? Then that's when you look at your classes and you start doing, you scrape them for skills. What skills have I learned?
I'm sorry. First thing you do is that you go and talk to somebody like the doc here. You make an appointment in their office because you should have done this 2 years ago. But since you're not and we're here, first thing you do is go talk to the doc. Okay, sorry. I had to throw that in.
Well, I mean, that all of that to say, even if you, and I preface this, even if you feeling is one thing, feeling is different from reality. So my question to you is, why do you feel that you've made the wrong decision? Right. Because is it somebody else telling you you've made the wrong decision, or are the classes getting too difficult? What's going on with you? That's what I want to know. And then we start what I call scraping. We start looking at skills, because I'm a person who believes that you can learn something from anything.
Right.
Absolutely. You can gain a skill from anything. So what we're going to do is figure out what these skills are, what your abilities are, what your knowledge level is, and then we're going to look at how we're going to apply this to the world of work. Another thing that students can think about doing, and you mentioned this, I want to make sure that I address this. And even in your talk coming up about the banks.
Yes.
And I mentioned, and I think student loans were mentioned on there. And I want to mention to students, take advantage of the work-study program. There are lots of jobs on campus. Are you paid $20 an hour? No, you're not paid $20 an hour. But if you are a student that doesn't have any work experience, this can give you work experience. It can give you experience working in an office, or working in a lab, working in the library, working as a tutor.
Yep.
You know, there's lots of different types of positions. So take advantage of that. Don't sit and wait on it and go, oh, I don't have any skills. I don't have any. This is a way of building those skill sets and getting that job experience if you don't have it.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think it's a really so funny that every time we come up with a circumstance, it always leads back to figuring out your why. Because it's not wrong if it's aligned with your why, no matter who says what. And I love the point that you made about making sure that people align between, this idea of right and wrong. Because especially for many of us who grew up in communities of color, there's this idea of trouble. You don't want to get in trouble. Nobody wants any trouble. And this idea it becomes pervasive, and it follows us through our adult life. And so we end up in these situations where we don't want to make the wrong mistake and get in trouble. This idea that we don't want to go back, or we want to go back to this idea, someplace safe, because in a safe place on base, there is no trouble. And so I'm grateful for you making sure that the conversation, again, stays anchored in the why. You may have certain outcomes that you don't want, but the funny part, and I had this conversation with a young lady today, you are concerned about something. She was mourning something she never had. She had an idea of how the job that she had would play out, and she got a new promotion and what it would look like. And she was very unhappy that it didn't look like that. And like really, really unhappy. Someone said, you are mourning the loss of something you never had. And a lot of times we create these stories in our head about what will happen, and we get so attached to the story, we don't even realize when that story is unhealthy. We get so attached about making partner, about being the top this or that, or the amount of money we make, that we don't even realize that we're killing ourselves and alienating the people around us in order to get there. Hey, Doc, it's like you're sliding off the screen a little. And it's so funny because I keep moving my face trying to see you. I'm like, no, it's not me. Like, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, and I like the lipstick too, Doc. I appreciate that. That's cool. I apologize. I'm gonna get a show note on that one. Okay, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say about the young person that you spoke with today. People create stories in their head, and with these stories, along with these stories, are feelings.
Yes.
And so you're attaching all of this to this because it makes you feel a certain way. But feelings something, it's not necessarily a feeling, it's not necessarily the truth. It's not necessarily reality. It's
Yeah.
okay to have feelings
Yes.
about a story you've created. It's natural to have a feeling about it, but at some point you have to separate the story from reality.
Reality, yeah. You are absolutely right, and I think that becomes one of the biggest challenges that people have, especially navigating the career space. Because again, the same people who told me to be a good person, the same people who taught me to cross the street, the same people that told me how to stay safe, are the same ones who told me that once I got a degree, everything would be okay. Especially if I got a degree and a good government job. And you know what I did? I got a degree and a good government job. And 6 months later, I got laid off from the government job. I didn't even know that you could get laid off. And again, I'm going to be honest about it. I didn't know you could get laid off if you didn't work in a factory. I thought in order to get laid off, you had to work in a factory. I didn't know that it could happen to white collar people because nobody when that happened, it happened to my uncles that worked at a factory, or it was on the news at some factory. I'd never even conceived of that type of risk. And so my idea about what professionalism and a career pathway would look like was totally devoid of any reality. Now, granted, reality jumped in and showed me what it was real quick. But it was because of some of these stories, because I didn't have anyone who knew the process to walk me through the process and help me understand my why and how that why aligned to the real world. I just knew that I wanted to be successful and have a good job and a family. Ta-da! I didn't know about all of these other things. And so that's why I'm saying, people, your kids, if it's you, hell, if you're an alumni of a place, go back and talk to the career service. Now, let me ask you this. Let me make sure, Doc, if an alumni of any of the institutions that you were at came to the campus while you were there and said, hey, I need help, would you be like, hell no, you graduated, get out of here, or would you help?
No, we help alumni.
So go. There's nothing stopping you. The doc and people like the doc are literally they get paid to try to help you. Go to them. They could change the entire trajectory of your life, of your career, of your kids' career. Just there's literally no downside. Am I going too deep into this, Doc? Because I don't. It's one of those things like I wish I had watched this when I was 18, 19, or they had it at the UMBC Common Room that somebody got me to understand this. Like I think about all of those workshops I walk past when you walk through campus, you see these flyers. The Association of Political Scientists are doing this. You're like, they ain't even having pizza. Not realizing that just showing up to that meeting and having one conversation could have changed the trajectory of my life. And that's one of the reasons I want to make sure we continue to have these types of conversations. Sorry, I made it about me again. That's probably the show notes.
No. I think that especially when you're part of that college experience, as we talk about the return on investment, it's one thing to get the degree, okay? It's another thing to get the campus experience, and that is learning how to work with other people, learning how to work on group projects. Because as much as for all of my folks out there that hate group projects, I can guarantee you, when you're working in your 9 to 5, we don't call them group projects. We call it collaboration.
Yes. Yeah. Or this person in charge, and y'all got to work with him. That's the way they told me that one time. He in charge. No. That's a team. There you go. That's the word. Team.
Or are you working on a team, or a council, or some type of advisory board, some type of task force? You are going to have to work together. So there are some things that you're going to learn outside of the classroom that you're going to learn on a college campus. I would also say that when you do have the honor society groups that meet up, the professional organizations that come to campus, if an alumni is giving a talk on what it's like to work in the real world, those types of things, do attend, because you can also if even if that's not the focus of the conversation, you can always talk to those speakers afterwards and say, hey, can I meet you for a cup of coffee, or can we have a virtual cup of coffee? I have some questions about what this really looks like in the real world.
Oh, wait, I'm
One
sorry.
of
Time. Did you just say a virtual cup of coffee?
Yeah.
That is, so funny. I've been locked in the house for like 2 years, and it never occurred to me about this whole virtual cup of coffee. Because it adds that whole kind of feel to it without it. That's really cool, Doc. Y'all call the doc, okay? Just look the doc up. Tell them what. I'm sorry. Before we leave, no, we got some time. We would need to still make sure that they know how to find you. Okay, to make sure I had that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always tell students, no matter, especially if they're in the process of finding their why, even if you're at the beginning of this process, or maybe you have gone through this process of finding your why before, and you're at a point in your career where you want to pivot to do something else, but you don't know what that something else should be. You just know that what you're currently doing is not it anymore. One key thing that you can do is to have an informational interview, or like I said, a cup of coffee or a virtual cup of coffee, is talk to people who are doing things that if doing things that you want to do, or doing things that you think you want to do. Have a conversation with them. And this doesn't have to be an hour-long conversation. This could be a 30-minute conversation with you asking them, tell me about what you do. I'm interested, but I'm not sure how to get started.
That is a great one, Doc. That makes perfect sense.
And I have found people love to talk about themselves and talk about what they do, whether they like what they do or they don't like what they do. They are more than happy to have a conversation with you. And alumni especially really want to give back. So anytime a student reaches out to them, a current student reaches out to them and says, hey, I need some help, they are more than willing to assist.
Some of them. Now, I would say it's the majority of them, but some of them are just overwhelmed. Like, so for example, and again, because of course this is my show, so I make it about me. I know there have been times where I get called to do some things, and some of it, and that's why I said sometimes. The majority of times when I come out, I am looking forward to I'm looking forward, one, to hear the sound of my own voice, but also to talk to students. But there are some times where I do favors. Like, I don't like, so for example, if the doc called me and said, hey, could you come up to Hack and do this? I'm coming specifically because the doc asked me, not because I have this connection to Hack and by the way, Hack is the Harrisburg Area Community College.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want him to think I was calling you a school of Hack. I'm saying, but I would come there for you. So in that type of situation, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because what I don't want to happen is that, again, you have this expectation that you see me at Hack, and I'm like, boom, 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 and then you follow up with me, and I don't, and then you think that, okay, you can't deal with any alumni. Some of us aren't good. We're just people. And so you got to keep going. You got to keep talk to a number. If one of them don't work, find another one. Follow up with them. Try to get things done, because sometimes we're people, and in the universe of things that are going on, following up with a student's email right now may not be a big priority, but we damn sure don't want to like throw you to this curb, you know what I mean? But sometimes it may take us a while. Sometimes you may have to do a little bit more work. And that's just real. I mean, I'm like, I told you we keep it at 85 here. Sometimes I just don't have the time to remember your email. But if you get back into my stream of consciousness, normally I'm on it. Boom, I got you, because I really do want to help. So again, I know I made that about me. You wasn't talking about me particularly.
No. You made a good point. And I will say that in my experience, when you reach out to alumni, if they have the time, they will respond to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may not hear back from them for a couple of weeks. And it's not because they're being rude. Honestly, it's because, as William said, they're working on other projects. And so they may not have the time right then and there. But then that's when you move to someone else on the list. One monkey doesn't stop the show. So you got to keep it moving. Don't just focus on one person, focus on several different people. And then what you want to do when you start making those connections, that's one way to start building your network as well. Ask the person if it's okay that you keep them in your network and stay in touch with them, because you can use them to review your resume. You can use them if you're looking for an internship or a full-time job at some point when you're ready and you're looking, to let people in your network know that you're looking, getting feedback, having a quick mock interview, a quick check-in with someone. All of those different things are how you can use your network. The other piece of this is, and I think we mentioned this a couple sessions ago, is finding a mentor. That is something that we don't talk a lot about in career services, but we should, because having those mentors can help you tremendously with not only figuring out your why, but figuring out how you're going to apply all of this stuff to your next steps. They can really help you streamline what those next steps should be and what that should look like. It doesn't mean that you're going to take all of their advice, but it does give you someone else that you can, I call it, just bounce ideas off of and brainstorm with, especially if you're feeling stuck. Because sometimes someone outside of you, outside of your group of friends and your family, can see things that you don't see because you're so close to it. And they can look at it and go, that doesn't make any sense to me. Have you thought about this? Or maybe you should frame it this way. Or maybe your search should be, focused on this instead of that. And these mentors don't have to be in your same field of interest. They can be, like, my mentor is not in my field. My mentor is outside of my field, and is outside of my field for a reason, because of his vast experiences in the community. I wanted someone who could look at my experience, who knew me well, could look at my experience and say, Michelle, that doesn't make sense. Or, Michelle, this is what makes better sense. This is how you need to quarterback this. Or this is how you shouldn't quarterback this.
So you know what you did, Doc? I am grateful to you. So next week's show, the conversation is going to be mentorship. Ow! Ow! There you go. I'm excited. We're going to talk about mentorships, professional. Hey, you want me to see if I can find somebody else to join us, or is it just me and you? Where are you at with? I'm sorry, that's going to be another show note, but go ahead.
It's really up to you.
Okay. I think I may see if I can find because I know I have a number of people who have benefited from mentoring and professional mentoring, and I'd really like to have them talk about what that experience was like. Actually, I have a couple of people that I think about, and actually either I or Grace will coordinate with you to get on the calendar coordinate with them to coordinate their calendars to make sure that we can get with you. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Woo-hoo! Hey, Doc, tell them how they can get in contact with you. LinkedIn sounds best.
I'm sorry?
How should they get in contact with you? LinkedIn? What's up?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can certainly send me a LinkedIn request or inbox me through LinkedIn. That's perfectly fine. If you have a question, you can even send it to my personal email. That's fine as well.
Go ahead with your ass up. All right, Doc. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your wealth of knowledge and information, your KSAs with our audience. I'm looking forward to talking to you next time. Cool?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Oh, man, I keep telling y'all I know dope people, don't I? My people are amazing. She was able to come and bring a lot of information. And for those of us out there who have our kids that are in school, and those of us who may be looking for jobs ourselves, please hit up your alumni association, hit up the career services places at the places you graduated. And if nothing else, give the doc a call, hit me up, hit us up at BlackUSA.news, because we're in this together. And thank you for everything. And we will be black tomorrow.